Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Fredericks. I'm the Regional Coordinator for Social Studies and Blended Learning here at Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES, and thank you for joining us for this SSELA webinar focused in on our K-2 revisions, which have taken place over the last year, and a general welcome back to the curriculum. I am joined by some of my colleagues today and co-presenters, and so Linda, if you wouldn't mind just advancing us to the next slide. Linda and Donna, if you'd like to introduce yourself. I know that Nancy had to step away for a second, but Linda and Donna, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Donna, you can go first.
Oh, thanks, Linda. Hi, I'm Donna Murlaugh. I am an SSELA social studies consultant. I have worked on the team for the last 2 years, and I worked with a group of teachers on grade 2.
And I'm Linda Brandon. I'm the instructional technology consultant, and I've been on the team for as long as there's been a team, I believe. Actually, I joined it in year 2, and I'm happy to be working with this wonderful group of people.
And our colleague Nancy McGuire just had to step away for a second, but Nancy's kind of in the same boat as Linda. She's a longtime member of the SSELA team, and we are excited today to share with you our K-2 revisions and just talk about some general updates that are going on with the website to showcase where SSELA is going to continue to grow into the future. So today we do have a really chock-full agenda. Our webinar is going to be approximately an hour long. We're going to go ahead and introduce the rest of the team in a second, including 2 of our teacher writers who are here now, and I know some more of them are going to be joining us over the course of the hour. And really all the hard work that you folks are going to be able to see over the course of the next hour really is because of the work of these 11 teachers from across New York State. We're going to talk about the scope and the process of our work, and as well as the progress and how this is going to continue to inform the direction that SSELA is going to go. We'll look at some of the civic resources at the K-2 level, which is something that came out of our kindergarten work. And then we'll go into our first grade updates, as well as a major transformation of grade 2, including the creation of a brand new unit. And Donna and Linda will speak to that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give you all time to play in, as we say, the sandbox and do a little bit of exploration on your own, and then give you the opportunity to come back and ask questions. And for those of you that are watching this recording asynchronously at a later time, please feel free that when you do go and take a look at these resources, if you do have any questions or comments or wonderings, we really encourage you to reach out to us here at SSELA, and we'll be happy to share the answers that you might be looking for with you. So before we do jump in, we do really want to acknowledge the work of 11 teachers who were our K-2 teacher team. We began working with these teachers over the course of the year, going back to last July, when they did a really deep dive. So we're talking about July of 2021. So this was a full year process. These teachers got a really great grounding from the team on the New York State Social Studies framework and really shared with us their experience and expertise in working with our littlest learners. You know, one of the things that can't be replicated by our team here, and I'm so proud to be a member of this team, is really that on the boots, those boots on the ground kind of feel. And so getting to collaborate with these 11 teachers who were from places all across New York State, who represented diverse groups of students and diverse teaching experiences, was incredibly helpful. And I do want to say thank you to Michelle and Allison for being here today, 2 of our teachers. And as I said, we do believe that more of them are going to be joining us, but the hard work that you see today, we acted as facilitators, but the work really came from these really outstanding and wonderful teachers. And I don't know, Donna or Linda, is there anything that you would want to add just about our experience in working with them?
I think they were fun to work with. They were forthright in what they saw as limitations and deliberate in terms of trying to strengthen the limitations so that we could provide a quality product. They were willing to engage with us in a variety of ways and very helpful to our thinking and the process of the work.
And I think go ahead, Linda.
I said, Donna said that very well. Couldn't say it any better. Thank you, team.
And I see that another one of our teachers, Jennifer Dushinsky, also joined us. So again, thank you to her as well. Nancy, we were just finishing up introductions. Would you just like to introduce yourself? Oh, she needs another second. So we'll come back to Nancy in a moment. Let's go ahead, Linda, and let's go to the next slide. So we're going to jump right in, and the first thing we are going to speak about are our kindergarten updates. Nance, if you don't mind, we'll come back to you as soon as we get to first grade. So our kindergarten team was made up of 3 different teachers. These 3 teachers, again, Jackie, Allison, and Dorothy, really represented very different spaces and very different areas of responsibility and very different classroom spaces that they were working with. Primarily, they focused on 2 different areas. One of them was our Unit 1, where we focused in on modifications, including our morning meeting, which many people feel is one of the most important lessons in grade kindergarten, because it really does set the tone for the entire year. And it included the incorporation of new resources and lesson revisions. And so as you folks go and take a look at Unit 1, you'll actually notice the language that's utilized in a lot of those lessons was changed pretty dramatically. And that was to make it more accessible for teachers. Our teacher writers also really were focused in on making it more developmentally appropriate for our kindergartners. One of the feedback points that we got from our kindergarten team was that many of the lessons and many of the products that students were expected to create in kindergarten were above the developmentally appropriate level. And in some cases, they also felt that there needed to be new resources integrated into those lessons. And so those are going to be represented specifically in Unit 1. And you'll see those denoted in specific lessons in Unit 1. One of the things that we're really proud of here is that as we add and do new resources within the SSELA curriculum, they're denoted in parentheses as being new. And so if you toggle over that, you'll see updated and new next to some of our lessons. You're also going to eventually see some of the resources migrated over from our morning meeting to another area, and I'll talk about that in a second. If you wouldn't mind, Linda, could you toggle back to the top of the screen for me for a second on the actual SSELA platform? Thank you. So just go ahead and toggle up. One of the things we do want to highlight for you folks, and if you want to go back into kindergarten for 1 minute for me, is you'll notice that there's a new tab on the gray band where you always find our units. So here you can see Units 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. A brand new addition to the SSELA curriculum is what we call our cross-unit resources. In our cross-unit resources tab, and this is already being populated in 5 of our grades currently, so it only appears in the grade levels where it's appropriate, and currently it's in K, 1, 2, and then 7 and 8. In the cross-unit resources tab, you're going to find resources, materials, activities, lessons that are meant to be utilized over the course of the entire year, or could be implemented in multiple different areas. So currently in our kindergarten area, we only have 1 resource, which we're going to look at in 1 second. But you will find things like the morning meeting eventually being migrated over to this space. Because again, the morning meeting, some of our teachers were confused about this, not on our team, but some of the teachers that we work with across from the state. And they felt that the morning meeting was something that was just done at the beginning of the year. The morning meeting, thinking through a lens of social emotional learning, really is something that's meant to be replicated over the course of the entire year, again and again and again. It's that constant check-in, it's that community building. And that goes really well hand in hand with this other resource that we're going to highlight momentarily. So Linda, if you would go ahead and click into our K-2 civic readiness resource. One of our teachers on the kindergarten team took a specific focus and actually created a resource that doesn't only live in the kindergarten level. It's actually something that's now found in kindergarten 1 and 2. One of the most exciting initiatives that's currently taking place across New York State is New York State's Seal of Civic Readiness. Now, the Seal of Civic Readiness, for those of you who may have heard of it before, you may think of it as a high school-based initiative, but in fact, it's really a K-12 initiative. And here at SSELA, we believe in community. We believe that we want our young people to be firmly invested in their communities. And we believe that elementary education is foundational for building the blocks that students need to be successful and eventually earning the Seal of Civic Readiness in middle school and in high school. And so what this teacher did, Dorothy France, is she designed some resources to be utilized, including specific vocabulary. And you can see it's teased out kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2. This is also nested within the lessons in SSELA. And if you do click on the specific grade level, it does open up a list of recommended vocabulary terms. And then if you want to go ahead, Linda, to slide number 3 for me. there's just some very general readiness experience guidance. What the state has said time and time again is one of the most exciting things that we can do, or important things that we can do for our youngest learners, is get them excited with the idea or concept of choice. And so Dorothy wrote some recommendations regarding voting, and she also talked a little bit about the importance of making students feel empowered in what was going on around them in order to create a safe community space. If you want to go to the next slide for me, Linda. We then went ahead and went into our SSELA, we'll call it our laboratory, and pulled out a lesson that we had designed during the pandemic and turned it into a K-2 civic readiness project. So what you see here with really great, firmly grounded directions is a community project that students can engage in either individually with assistance from their teacher and their parents, in small groups, or as a full class activity. And if you want to just kind of quickly scroll through the following slides, Linda, and show everyone, there's a complete template in here. Now, this is designed in PowerPoint, but as we know, PowerPoint and Google Slides continue to get better at going back and forth and being, technologically able to slide between the two. And so if you are a Google district, you can certainly convert this into a slideshow and then actually share this out with students. And this is something that Linda had created previously that we tweaked and made work for our kindergartners, first graders, and second graders. But there's an entire project in here where students can introduce themselves. They can identify a community's need. And again, this could be done individually or as a full class project. After they've talked about that, they can think about who it impacts, right? So going beyond sense of self, building that really core building block of empathy, developing an action plan. And remember, community can be classroom space, school space, or broader space. It can be home, it can be country. How are they going to share that information out? And then finally, how will it change their community? And so again, this is something that we feel is really foundational as we think about how we're going to build our community spaces in our classrooms. This is something that could be done towards the beginning of the year, or this could be a culminating project. But again, it builds on the work of Allison and Jackie, who really focused in on Unit 1, focused in on making things developmentally appropriate for our youngest learners, focused in on the language that we were using. And here's this project, including books that can also be utilized here that can be built off of that to create a full experience for our youngest learners. And so we're really excited, and you're going to have an opportunity in a few minutes to take a look at this. But again, this can be found currently in grades 1, grade 2, and in kindergarten under the Cross Unit Resources tab. And I'm going to go ahead and turn over the presentation now to Nancy.
Hi, my name is Nancy McGuire, and I coordinated a team of grade 1 and 2 teachers as they reviewed the grade 1 curriculum and suggested modifications to the program. So here you'll see these were the goals we set for our revision. The feedback that came from the teachers we worked with thought that we needed to encourage greater student engagement, that many of the lessons appeared to be teacher driven, and they wanted to see additional activities where the students could show what they knew. We added more formative checks for key ideas and skills. Very often we went through a lesson, but when we really scrutinized the lesson, we saw that there was no way for students to show us that they had grasped the idea or the skill that was being presented in a particular lesson. And then a lot of the teachers gave suggestions about differentiated instruction. And so you'll notice in many of the lessons, even if you've used SSELA previously, you'll notice that there are alternative ways of modifying the lesson to better meet the needs of your particular students. We also looked at providing new drawing and speaking prompts, because we found that many of the lessons were a bit heavy on having students provide written responses, and particularly in the early part of grade 1, that might not be advantageous to all the students. And then finally, we've offered, and I'm going to be showing you these in just a moment, we provided a book of curated and annotated books that deal with multiple perspectives about both government and about family. Okay, Lynn, could you go to the next slide, please?
I just want to add before Nancy goes on that we do have a list of books that will be going with the families unit that is not yet published online, but you can expect to find it probably by tomorrow.
And we'll talk about that as we go through this. So I've just put up a sampling of some of the resources we've added. The first group go with Unit 1, and the first is a lesson on what does government do. We found that in the previous iteration, students were asked to provide what they thought government should do. We thought they needed a bit more prompting for that. So that's a great presentation. Later, when you get a chance to look through the curriculum, I hope you see that. You'll see that, Linda, can you just go back to the top of that? You'll notice that throughout the lesson plan, we've noted where lessons have been updated. And then if you go to the resources and material bar, you'll notice that we also have provided a clue as to new materials that we've added. And
I just want to point out that when you go to a page like this, and sometimes in the past, we've always had our procedures days 1, 2, and 3. Now we've often added a note to the teacher at the beginning of the lesson if there's something that we specifically want the teacher to keep in mind before they teach this lesson. We're limited in our template of how much information we can provide in this introduction. And we know probably a lot of people don't read introduction anyway, so we're trying to embed that right onto the web page, really in the heart and soul of what we know you are engaging with as you work with this curriculum. So here, Nancy just wanted me to show a couple of the new resources as we try to pull things together and make them more engaging visually for students with a lot more visuals. This used to be a one-page PDF. We turned it into a slideshow that you could show on your screen, and we've given way more examples of things that government does for us, and we tried to focus on things that students could relate to. Okay, so, and another one that Nancy wanted me to call up here was,
I'm back.
In the past, we had a pretty inferior picture of the Constitution, and so we've updated this a little bit to now again have a presentation and a better version, a better view of the United States Constitution, and with the opportunity to see it, a full screen image of it, and with some focus questions that you can now concentrate on as you talk about this important document. So again, we're just trying to improve the visuals here to give you a better way to engage with your students.
And to provide you with some prompts for support so that we can really get the students focused at what it is we really want them to take away from the lesson. And now for the exciting part, Linda.
Well, this is just fun. Nancy and I work together to try to come up with some new ways to introduce the concept of symbols, and where do we see symbols, what are they? And Nancy just came up with a really brilliant idea of, instead of just showing pictures, we came up with a bingo game for the kids to play. So you will see here that it takes the form of a PowerPoint. So again, the first file that you would be using with this lesson would simply be a PowerPoint, which of course you can upload into your Google Drive. It will look hopefully almost the same, with a few focus questions here to have some conversations. And then we filter through 20 different common symbols that students should be able to identify. And you could bring these up and use some critical thinking skills to talk about, what is the symbol? How, what are some clues within this symbol to help us understand what it means? And after they go through that activity together, we've then converted this into a bingo game. Thank you, Nancy, for that great idea. And so what I've done is I've created some bingo boards for you with explicit directions on how to do this game. And I've provided about, I think, 20 or 24 different, 12 different bingo boards that you could pull up. And I don't think any two of them are the same, cross my fingers here, that you could print this out and laminate and pass out to your students to play in pairs. And then again, on the last slide, these are the actual symbols and what they stand for. So how you would implement this with your class would be totally up to you. If you wanted to call out what the symbol does and let them try to figure out which symbol it refers to, or if you just want to say, do not enter, and have them play the bingo game. So we think that your kids will have a lot of fun with this.
There are a number of ways you can actually connect this to the lesson. In the beginning, when you're talking about rules and laws, you can ask students as they go through, are these signs that are put up, are they rules? Are they suggestions? Are they laws that the government has implemented? And what is their purpose? Obviously, their purpose is to protect people and to keep order, either in a building or out and about in the community. And so it really invites a robust conversation about why we have rules, why we have laws, what are the differences between the two, and what are the consequences if they're not obeyed or if they're not followed. And so this really sets up, maybe you can go to the next.
Yeah, so it actually sets it up for then what the heart, the real content of the lesson is, and that is about the symbols of our country. And again, we've tried to provide you with some new resources here, drag and drop activities, so that the students can engage with these materials.
And that are more appropriate for kindergarten. The Pledge of Allegiance is a drag and drop activity that's really, it's age appropriate. And the same with the symbols drag and drop activity.
I'll just jump into what Nancy said right there. Remember, there is so much crossover, and I think this is something that our teachers all drew attention to as we were working together and collaborating. And we did have some teams that were cross grade, including our kindergarten team. There are certainly resources. If you're a kindergarten, first grade, or second grade teacher, yes, the framework does change from grade to grade. Yes, the content is different, but there certainly are high areas of overlap. And so if time does afford for you to take a look at the resources in those other grade levels around yours, there are certainly going to be things that you might want to take and adopt to use in your own classroom space as well. Sorry, Nancy, just wanted to jump in there. And, make sure
and Linda, if you can just go back for 1 second, I think is this the one that has the flag in it? I do believe it is, right? Lesson 6. We wanted to point out, there is a lesson in here on the American flag. We pointed out the last 2 parts of the lesson. You might want to break apart and actually use for Flag Day. Right. So you can use these lessons in a multitude of ways. I think it was.
Yeah, it's probably here on
day 2. Is it?
No. Yeah, day 2, I think. Oh, that's the
day 3.
Banner. Oh,
that's if you go to day 1 and you look at number 6, that's where it says.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go. We broke it apart so that you could, you could do the first part of the lesson if you want early on in the year, so they become familiar with the flag and the purpose of the flag and the meaning behind the flag. But then you could go into greater detail later in the year if you chose. Yes. And by then they would probably be better able to read.
Right. And then in the next lesson, I just did want to point out here that we have linked up to our mini unit on elections. A lot of times teachers forget that on our homepage under online learning, we have these mini units that are, that we developed a couple of years ago that are pretty robust. And sometimes when you're in the thick of the website, you forget about them. So we actually have made reference to it right on the page so that you could call it up and access that mini unit right from this lesson if you chose to, when your class is voting on a class symbol, to talk about the voting process. So we want to move ahead a little bit to the families unit. Nancy, you want to say a couple words about that?
Sure. So we've done a lot of tweaks with this particular unit, trying to keep in mind sensitivity issues. And I'm sure the first grade teachers are much more aware of this than even we were, but just the sensitive issues that can come up when you're dealing with families. So in the first unit, the first lesson rather, we focus on defining family and what different families look like, how families are alike and different. And that is really the primary practice or skill that students are working with in this first lesson. It's what is similar, what is different. Now, we've put two different resources. One is a very traditional book about family. That's the one, what is that called? All Kinds of Family by Norma Simon. And the other book, My Family, pushes the envelope a little bit about modern families. So depending on whether or not this has become a sensitive topic in your school, you may want to choose one book over the other. But what we've done, or what Linda has done, I should say, is set up this lesson and set up this graphic chart that you see here, so that the same questions could be asked. It doesn't matter which book you use. And you may substitute a book, and you should be able to answer these same questions, or students should be able to answer them the same way. Now, they may be able to write the responses. The teacher, you may need to scribe the responses. You may ask students to draw responses, or they can work in groups and record responses if they want. You really have several options on how you approach this. But I thought that was a cute piece. And then another one, another lesson focuses on immediate and extended family members. And Linda put together, once again, a cute activity here. It's another drag and drop.
I think it's here. Yeah, there's a presentation on new family and extended family, and also a drag and drop activity that you could do together with them using the, the smart board. And if you are so inclined and you're pushing technology out to students, this is something that you could push out to them on their devices if you want to, so that they could then engage with this activity tactually with their machine, with their own computers, or in pairs. So again, we're trying to make it more engaging and more interactive for students.
Okay, and then the last lesson in here deals with families now and then, or it's really dealing with the social studies skill of how things change or might perhaps remain the same over time. And again, this lesson has a variety of books that you can choose from. So you can select the book you want to use. The lessons are appropriate for both. There is a vocabulary exercise here that deals with words related to time that students can work with.
So you
and
can
then
see
there
how
are
many
also
movies
visuals.
we
There's a
have
visual
here.
presentation as well, I believe.
Yes. Families over time, that was here before, but you can see how many new resources we have, how many new books we have. And at the beginning of this lesson, I've actually outlined for you which ones are available on Books on Video and which ones you need the physical book, because a lot of times you don't need the physical book. But we've certainly given you a lot to work with here in terms of families of different ethnicities. So you might want to scan these different books and Books on Video to see. Some of them deal with Latina or African-American families or Italian heritage families. So we give you a lot to really, help have those diverse conversations in your class about their own particular families.
And really, I think one of the most important issues is we are trying to give you resources that will allow you to preview the resources that are available, decide whether for your particular community they are books that will be well received, or shy away from them because you think they may cause a controversy, but that genuinely meet the needs of a very wide swath of students. in your class.
Okay, we're gonna move on to grade 2,
Done.
so we don't run out of time, Nancy. And I'm gonna turn it over to, thank you so much, Nancy. There's really a lot there, so we hope you have a chance to really dive, take a deep dive into grade 1, if that's your grade level, and take a look at all the new resources we've provided. So here comes our expert, Donna, to talk about what we've done with grade 2.
Up, Donna, you're muted.
I was gonna say, Donna, did you leave me?
Oh, I didn't leave you. Sorry about that. With grade 2, the teachers and Linda and I really talked about the need to pare down some of the vocabulary because it was too long, the need to make lessons more flexible and interactive. And they were very specific about a desire for a separate unit on economics and not just a single lesson that related to taxes, but had embedded in it goods and services, needs and wants, and other things. So this has been designed with their input to be as flexible and as user-friendly as possible. One of the things we really thought about was the use of trade books as a place of first encounter for words. So almost every lesson is aligned to at least one trade book. Some of them are fiction, some of them are nonfiction. And using those books to get at social studies vocabulary, because word knowledge is built through multiple encounters. And repetition is the mother of retention. It doesn't mean drill and kill, but it means I'm interacting with these words in a lot of different ways. So some of the things that Linda and I put together based on lengthy discussions with the teachers was a glossary that is an illustrated glossary for economics. And in that glossary, we tried to put some specific things together that allow for the word to be presented in a sentence form, as it's a more friendly form for kids. So we're trying that out with this unit. Let us know whether you like it, don't like it, how it works for you. We also updated the images that were in this, but we also tied words together. So for example, in the active citizenship illustrated glossary for Unit 1, there's the word in slide 6 of choice. And it's a decision you make between two or more things. And then we put up choices. Linda was really good with this. She put up choices that went with civics. In the economics unit, choice is another word that is used again, but in this case, in slide 4, the vocabulary shows choices being made that are more economics based. So again, the word is being used a second time, but this time it's what do I need? What do I want? A choice is a decision you make between two or more things. And these are the types of choices you can make when you're doing economics. So all the way through these vocabulary, we also have, you'll see underneath here under choice, where it says See Penny Pot by Stuart Murphy. That is a book on video that you can use to look at that word choice, or financial decisions, which is another one of the vocabulary words. So often underneath each of these vocabulary, there are resources listed where you can go and look at a particular book to bring that word or idea to life. So lots of ways for kids to interact. And the rationale for using definitions in sentence form was borrowed from Bringing Words to Life, a robust vocabulary instruction, which my team members and I looked at as we were considering what words we wanted to keep, what definitions we felt were user-friendly, and then what materials we thought would work with kids. So all the way through here, almost every word, but not every word, has a source underneath it that you can use. In some cases, they're videos, in some cases, they're articles, but things that will hopefully resonate with kids. Linda, pop down to scarcity for a second. They wanted empty shelves, which was part of COVID. So we used that as an image. And we made the images, I think, more
Relevant to the
modern, relevant, up to date. Yeah, yeah.
We're really interested to see how you react to this new illustrated glossary, because it's a project that we probably will want to take on for our other units as well. So if you work in grade 2, pay attention to this illustrated glossary, and hopefully you'll appreciate the differences that we've incorporated into it.
Throughout the unit, we've incorporated a variety of activities that encourage students to interact with the words that are part of this illustrated glossary, and to do that in different ways. So Linda, do you want to take a quick stroll into Unit 2, Lesson 1? And in that one, needs, wants, and budget. Linda, scroll back up to the top for just a second. One of the things that Greg noted was that kindergarten and first grade also deal in economics. In fact, the last unit for first grade is economics. If some of the things we're asking kids to do in this unit on economics don't resonate with you, or they seem a little higher than your kids can do, go back and look at grade 1, unit 4, or go back and look at kindergarten. Borrow an activity from there and then scaffold it up, so that you've got opportunities here to be flexible. In this particular one, I came across a material that had been added prior to our work with the revision team, and they liked it. So Linda created an activity off of moon jars, which asks kids to deal with scenarios. Linda, do you want to talk a little bit about what you did here?
Okay, so if you go to we do list under internet, I believe somewhere. I don't see it now. I'll link to, it's under teacher reference materials. Yeah, the Moon Jars website. And so what we did is we took this Moon Jars activity and we kind of updated it and brought it into our own materials. So you'll see here that we have a Moon Jars scenarios as a slideshow. Again, it was created in PowerPoint. Actually, I did create it in Google to begin with. Then I brought it into PowerPoint. It can work in either platform. So we walk you through the steps, explicit teacher instructions on how to use this. But the students are going to be working with different kinds of scenarios. And so we've created this slideshow based on the information in the Moon Jars online version, but we've made it a little more interactive and user-friendly, I believe, so that this activity becomes a, whoops, I got to enable the content, becomes a drag and drop activity where students have to meet a goal. They have $50 to spend. What can they bring on their athletic field trip? This is the one that you'll use as a sample. And then you tell what they chose. Is it a need or a want? Explain why it's a need or a want. So you're giving a rationale of why you're choosing these particular objects. Then in groups, they either choose to go on a camping trip, or design go camping, or to design a party supply. So you can see that there are different scenarios here. And again, they can be pushed out to the students so that they drag and drop the items onto the screen. Then they do their math. And we've also provided for you, in case you're so inclined, under teacher resources, let me see if I can find it, the Moon Jars spreadsheet. Here it is, brand new. So if you're a little bit tech savvy, but you don't really have to be that tech savvy to use this, you can do some kind of goal reaching using this spreadsheet in all the different scenarios. So again, students would plug in what items they chose. And as you add these items over here, the spreadsheet will automatically update for you and total it, so you can see how much more. I put in $20. Well, I'm not giving you $200 worth of candy. Sorry, you're only getting $20, so that they can see what they can purchase in order to meet their goal. So there's a separate tab for each one of these items. Again, this is something that we see the teacher using at the front of the room with the class. If you're so inclined, it makes it a little more active and engaging for the students. So play around with those resources as you see fit.
The other thing I would add to this is because it's economics and economics has a lot of math to it, it can be combined with math lessons. So that if you're adding and subtracting, you can use that. You can use it for estimating. So you can combine not only social studies and ELA, but you can combine social studies, ELA, and math so that you're doing many things with a single lesson. One other thing I want to point out is in the taxes lesson, rather than go straight to collecting taxes in the classroom, we've recommended 3 different books. 2 of those books are not available on video, 1 is, but each of those books provides information in a kid-friendly way about how taxes might impact them when they make a purchase, and get at how government uses tax money before engaging in that taxation activity that was there. That's been put into presentation form, and that's also been made an extension as opposed to the primary activity. So we've played around with that. We've got, go ahead.
Was the go around dollar the one you were thinking about?
Go around dollar is one of the things that exists in there, but Taxes by Nancy Lowen is in there. Tara pays taxes, which is not on video, but it's about a young girl who saves her money to buy a craft and then realizes she doesn't have enough because she has to pay taxes. And her sister says to her, well, I'll pay the difference for you. I'll pay what you owe in the tax money, but every time you use a government service, you'll owe me a dime. And so she learns all about the different government services, sidewalks, street signs, police officers in this story. Tara pays up, and taxes may be available on Epic, but since we didn't want to put a subscriber type of service there, maybe your district through Ed Law 2D has access to Epic and you want to check that out and can find a video that way, but it's not available on YouTube or Vimeo. So
see, just like Nancy mentioned in grade 1, what we've tried to do is provide you with different books to use, but with the same focus questions. So again, 3 different books, same focus, and giving you a lot of choice.
Yeah, and we transformed a culminating summative assessment, which is really now a project, into a presentation. The Popcorn Factory has been transformed by Linda into a very cute presentation that allows, again, math to be brought into social studies, kids to be able to think about how you might create a popcorn activity. Teachers could actually set this activity up in their classroom if they wanted it. Instead of doing it just as a presentation, they could actually create the popcorn activity. And there is in lesson 4 a book called Lemonade in Winter, where kids create a lemonade stand in the middle of winter. Yeah, not the best of times. They count money and they do a variety of different economic activities that relate to the popcorn activity. So there's lots of different ways to interact with this. Linda, did you want to talk about a couple things?
I don't know. I think they need a little time to explore. As you can see in Unit 4, there is just so much new material and so many new, really, engaging activities. The Lemonade in Winter, I love the fact that Donna brought this book in. And what we've done is we've turned this into a, we're trying to put the story, if the book was available as a book on video, we're trying to encapsulate everything in the slideshow. So you only have to bring up one file where you could listen to the book, and then you could have your discussion questions. We've linked into a video about assembly lines, and then we've created an assembly line for the kids. If you were holding a lemonade stand, and you wanted to have an assembly line to make your process easier, what would you do? So again, we've given it some interactivity here, and however you choose to use these with your class could be as a whole class activity, as small groups with individual computers where the kids actually doing the dragging and dropping and the discussion questions as well, giving them the opportunity to answer in many different ways.
And there are lots of extension activities here, so that if you want to assess in different ways, there are lots of different ways to assess. It's not paper and pencil necessarily, but I thank Linda for all the creative ways that she brought the questions and ideas and information that we played with to life. And you're right, Linda, I think people now need to play.
Right. So what we've done here is on the next slide, I have created a Jamboard file. Greg, can you put that link in the chat? Is Greg here?
Yes.
Okay. Can you do that, Greg?
Yep, I will drop the Jamboard right into the chat for you.
Okay, so this is the Jamboard. It's got 4 or 5 slides. The first slide just giving you some instructions. You should all be able to access this. I'm hoping to see you guys populate this in a minute. If I shared it correctly, I did share, so anybody with the link should be able to edit. I don't see your little icons pop up
Just
here.
give me 1 second.
That's all right. I
you
know.
Google, we all know how Google sometimes likes to take its time, but I'm copying the link right now into the
Yeah.
chat.
So if you want to take a look at some kindergarten things, of course, you can just pop into the curriculum on your own tab and look at some stuff here. We'd love to have some comments on our Jamboard for kindergarten, for grade 1 and grade 2. So probably we're going to step aside and let you do a little bit of
Yep. And we'll say right around 7 or 8 minutes. So we're going to give you folks all the opportunity to do this. We're going to actually cut this part out of the presentation. So I'm going to actually ask everyone to mute their cameras because it'll indicate to our editor to cut this part out, and I'll actually indicate that time for him. And then that way we won't have blank time on the actual slide. So when you hear my voice, I'm going to pop back in about 6 or 7 minutes. We'd ask that you just return back for a final debrief, but really just want to give you an opportunity to jump into that Jamboard and into the website itself and take a look at some of those changes and some of those resources. And we'll call you all back here in about 6 or 7 minutes. All right, folks, we're going to start to welcome you all back. It was nice to see some comments and feedback already begin to populate in the Jamboard. One of the things we are going to do is when we do post this video up on the website, we will, of course, also share out the presentation itself as well as the Jamboard link. And, one of our asks here at SSELA, and I think Donna made really good mention of this as well as Nancy and Linda, is that we really are looking for feedback, right? Many of the changes that we've made make these grades look and feel very different. And before we go and implement some of these changes across the board or across other grade levels, we really do want to hear from you folks. You folks are the experts in these areas. And, it is also helpful that if you do look at something again from another grade level, but it somehow resonates with something that you teach, that kind of feedback is great as well. And it's wonderful to see these really nice positive comments, but also constructive criticism is always also really greatly appreciated as well. So we do have about 5 minutes left, and we did just want to kind of open the space up if anybody did want to ask any questions, and you can feel free to do that either in the chat or by unmuting yourself. And again, I just did want to say thank you again to our team members who did join us today, our teacher team members, Allison and Jennifer and Michelle for taking the time. And when we talk about the amount of time that they put in over the course of the last year, really going above and beyond and being willing to turnkey a lot of these things in their classroom spaces with their own students prior to them coming onto the website, just incredibly appreciative for all of the hard work that they put in as members of the SSELA team. So just want to kind of open the space up for any last questions or comments or thoughts, and I'll open it up to the team as well, or to our teachers or anyone else who wants to share.
I just wanted to say one last thing that Donna and I did specifically, mostly in Unit 2, the new unit. We know how teachers really appreciate answer keys. So Under teacher reference materials, you can see here, I'm in lesson 3, money, banking, and taxes. And you can see here under teacher reference materials, Donna has done a fabulous job in, providing some answer keys with, not just the answer as is, but, all the possible kinds of answers that you might be looking for from a student. So I think you'll appreciate that as well.
I just had a quick comment. Thank you guys for putting this all together because, the 3 of us worked together and it was piecemeal here and there. And so it's nice to see it all, together and see the final product. So thank you for all of your work.
Well, thank you, Allison, and thank you all for being flexible. This was the first time that we had ever done this virtually with teachers from across the state. And so it required a lot of patience and perseverance from everyone who was involved. But we really lucked out and had an amazing team. And we look forward, I can announce that we're going to be doing some grade 3 and some grade 4 revisions for this upcoming year. And teachers are going to have a slightly different role in this revision cycle, but really looking forward to continuing to collaborate with teachers from across the state. But thank you again, Allison, and thank you, Jennifer. I think Michelle had to step out, but thank you so much for your hard work. And it was great to have some real regional people right down here by where we are in PNW BOCES, but we had people from the Western Tier and Long Island and from upstate as well. And so it was great to just have all of the voices across New York State really heard. And thank you again for all your hard work.
We appreciate all the efforts that you and the sacrifices in terms of time that you made to honor us with your skills and knowledge of students and curriculum and to share it with us. So thanks again.
And those of you who are here, Greg said we had 60 people register, but there are only 13. So we're hoping that those of you who are here will share this information with your colleagues in your buildings.
We know it's a hard time, right, to commit to something in the first week of school. For many of you, it was the very first day of school. And so we hope that you are all maybe at home now, putting your feet up after that first day of school. And remember, the school year is a marathon and not a sprint. And best wishes from us here at SSELA for a really happy and healthy and successful school year, and hopefully return to something that feels a little bit more normal. And we look forward to hearing all of your feedback and good criticism in the coming months and coming year. But stay well, everyone, and thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.